Hey, this is Liz from People I Think Are Cool, a bi-weekly podcast where I interview my favorite creatives from across the globe. If you're looking for a dose of creative inspiration, then go to peopleithinkarecool.com or subscribe to People I Think Are Cool on iTunes and Stitcher.
You like film, from cult to classic, from blockbuster to B-movies. And there just isn't that one place with all the fan fervor and passion that's covering the kind of mad, diverse brilliance that you love.
Well, that's where you're wrong.
ITMODmini is that fan-built movie nirvana just for you, featuring the sweet, sweet writings of the wife dork herself. ITMODmini. Go there. Be the best you can be.
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast, the official podcast of the Alamo Drafthouse Winchester.
Welcome to another edition of the ITMODcast podcast. Joining us is Brian Young, the Turtle Dork.
Hello, everybody.
And also joining us is Lisa Gullickson, Wife Dork.
Hello.
And Brad Gullickson, Mouth Dork.
Hello!
And Billy Daz, the Indie Dork.
What's up, everybody?
Yeah. And I'm your host, Darren Smith, the Disco Dork. And welcome to another edition of the ITMODcast podcast. ITMODmini is still awesome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are on our next film in the Still Awesome series. We got Out of Sight coming up.
Not only is it coming up, it's like next week, right?
Yeah. So.
In fact, as you're listening to this, we've had it already. No, that's not
Oh,
true.
shit.
No, it'll be
Almost.
Oh,
Don't have a week.
Brad.
Don't have a week.
The look of regret on his face is heartbreaking.
It's okay. It's
a
okay.
couple days.
But it's so funny. You should see it.
He's had a big day.
It's going to be in a couple days.
You got to pull it together, B, because you got to help us out. We got to talk about Elmore Leonard today.
Okay.
As
Be
Out
cool.
of Sight is an adaptation of his work, correct?
Yes, it is. That's true.
All right. So let me ask you this, because this is not the first, for the uninitiated, this is not the first adaptation of his work. What do you think it is about Elmore Leonard's work that is so appealing to cinema and screenwriters?
Dialogue.
Yeah.
You read his novels, they tend to be quick, brisk assaults of language. They are dialogue driven, so they adapt well into a screenplay.
Yeah.
If you watch the early Tarantino films of Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, you can clearly see the influence of Elmore Leonard's dialogue in those screenplays. And Leonard would ultimately be adapted into Jackie Brown by Tarantino.
Yep.
One of my all-time favorite films, without a doubt. So that I think that's the big draw for a filmmaker to his novels.
Do you know much about his personal history as far as his upbringing and how that affected his dialogue and what he would make people sound like and the characters he would write?
Well, I mean, he was born in 1925. He was born in New Orleans, but he grew up in somewhere in Detroit. I can't remember, because his dad worked for General Motors, and that's what brought him over there. And he would spend his life bouncing back from Florida to Detroit, and his novels take place in those two arenas.
So like blue collar type.
Blue. I mean,
people,
his
characters.
criminals are very much blue collar criminals. If
Yeah.
you look at the films that he makes that get adapted, those are his heroes.
Yeah.
He would often talk about how you have to get rid of formal language in fiction. That artists who get caught up in the purple prose, the sound of their own language, do not represent the reality that he sees. And not to say that like Elmore Leonard is the most realist fiction writer on the planet,
Right.
Because he strips his language of that formality, they become hyper stylized and lend to that voice.
Yeah. So in order to get an Elmore Leonard adaptation correct, what do you think is key? What do you feel?
Well,
like
I think it's like key to any adaptation. You have to adhere to the work you have. And what's nice about adapting Elmore Leonard is you have to worry less about trimming the fat. There's so little fat in his narratives.
Right.
You can pretty much just transplant it right onto the screen. Right. Now, it doesn't always work. I mean, there are certainly a bunch of mediocre to bad Elmore Leonard adaptations.
So that's what my question is. What did they not get right? Did they stray too far from his actual text?
Well, let's see. Let me think real quick. What are the worst adaptations of Elmore Leonard novels? Probably The Big Bounce is one of my least favorites. Owen Wilson, Morgan Freeman. Do you remember that one from the early aughts?
Yeah.
Not a good movie. I think the big flaw in that film is casting. Nobody in that movie fits that screenplay. The screenplay is it has some of the beats from the novel, but it abandons a lot too. So I think that's a lack of respect in that film. Whereas like Jackie Brown takes rum punch, but Tarantino can't help himself. He injects so much of his own personality into that screenplay. Like the whole Beaumont sequence in Jackie Brown is missing from the books. That's very much a Tarantino's scene.
But I feel like, to me, that's necessary in order to put your own stamp on this work from a previously or an existing author.
That's also the case with Out of Sight, right? Steven Soderbergh, what he changes about the book is the structure of the narrative. He's hopping all over the place, time-wise, and it gives a very dreamlike quality to the narrative. And you have to play a lot of catch-up in Out of Sight.
Yeah. So, do you think? Do you see a lot of Elmore Leonard in current or contemporary writers, whether it be through books or in film?
Well, I don't read novels anymore, so I couldn't answer that question. I feel like Elmore Leonard certainly exists through, the first thing that jumps to my mind is the adaptation of his character of Raylan Givens in the Justified television series.
I always forget that he's, it's so good.
Yeah. I think, that has almost nothing to do with the novels that character appears in, but it captures the spirit of the character and of the universe that Elmore Leonard works in. A lot of characters committing to stupid acts, right? Yeah. They're like, don't worry, we're going to do this. It's not going to be a big deal. We've got this. No problem. Oh, shit, it's blown up in my face. And as an audience member, we enjoy the heck out of that.
Yeah.
Don't fall right into the mic.
Sorry. It's not that I didn't find that fascinating.
One of my favorite adaptations of Elmore Leonard's work is not actually technically an adaptation. It's a screenplay that he originally wrote, Mr. Majestic, for a Charles Bronson film. And then Leonard went in and novelized that screenplay.
That's dope.
And you can read that book, and that's a perfect adaptation because he just copied himself.
Do you think? So, in regards to him in Out of Sight, what do you feel are the strongest connections with him, his book, and the characters in the film, and what Soderbergh brought to life?
I mean, to me, the actors that are like the best Elmore Leonard characters are Steve Zahn, Don Cheadle, and Albert Brooks. They're like perfect Elmore Leonard characters. Elmore Leonard would probably not write a character as handsome as George Clooney actually is in Out of Sight, nor do I think Karen Sisco would be played by Jennifer Lopez in the perfect adaptation. But at the same time, they're so damn sexy together, and the film is doing something a little bit different than what the book was doing. Yeah. And I have nothing but high marks to say about those two and their chemistry, their trunk chemistry.
Great.
So go back to Steve Zahn. So what is it about his character that you feel?
Well, Steve Zahn has that ability, and Don Cheadle have that ability to capture the confidence of stupidity,
Yeah.
You know, like these are not brilliant mastermind characters. They're fumbling in the world. Don Cheadle's character is maybe a little smarter than Steve Zahn's character, and that's how he can hold dominance over him. But they're not like, you know, Hannibal Lecter. There are no Hannibal Lecters in Elmore Leonard stories. And Zahn and Cheadle can play dumb and entertaining. Yeah. You know.
How about you, Brian? Because I know you're a writer. Are you a fan of Elmore Leonard or his work?
Well, I haven't really read much of his novels.
Really?
I'm ashamed to say.
But are you not intrigued?
I am. What I'm actually intrigued about looking at, I'm on the Wikipedia page looking at a lot of his novels, is how soon a lot of his novels became films, how soon after they were adapted. So when you look at something like Out of Sight, that novel was written in 96 and then the movie was in 98. So I don't know if there was like production deals
after
with...
Get Shorty exploded. Get Shorty was such a major film. Then you start, like, people are, you know, the studios are going like, we need our Get Shorty, we need Out of Sight, we need Jackie Brown, we need the Big Bounce, we need the Get Shorty sequel, be cool. You know, Leonard was compelled to write that sequel because of how popular the book was. And that film is not great.
What about you, Billy? Are you a Elmore Leonard fan?
I mean, I'm a fan of the adaptations of his works for his movies, but as far as his novel goes, I'm in Brian's camp. I really haven't read any of his work.
Brad has tried to get me to read his work.
I sure have.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How did it take?
To no avail.
Oh.
With Elmore Leonard, I feel like I have to like mouth the words along to translate it into my brain. Because, I mean, I know that I'm reading, but it's still, like, extremely dense and fast, it feels like. And so to stay along the line of what you're reading... So I've never finished an Elmore Leonard novel, even though they're fucking short. He's snappy. Am I not wrong? I'm guessing because of how they look on the shelf.
Yeah, they're snappy.
They're snappy. So I'll get back to it.
I would encourage you all to check them out. I think... I don't know, like Rum Punch might be a good place to start because of the familiarity with Jackie Brown, but maybe that's also a hindrance. And if you want something totally different, you know, that you will not have faces already cast in the characters, I maybe say like The Hot Kid, which is his 20s set novel. You know, it's got that Bonnie and Clyde, Pretty Boy Floyd flavor to it. That is a really interesting protagonist. But if you want something maybe a little more akin to Out of Sight, Mr. Paradise, I would recommend as well. That's one of his latter novels. And what I thought, you know, personally was cool about Elmore Leonard is as he got older, you know, Mr. Paradise and The Hot Kid, those are some of his last novels. He died in 2013, and those are two of my favorite Elmore Leonard books. And so often with creators, you remember fondly their early work, and you don't have a lot of great things to say about their last work. But with Elmore Leonard, I thought he was gangbusters all the way up until the end. So maybe, I'd say The Hot Kid and Mr. Paradise. Those would be my recommendations for you guys to take a look. Film wise though, you guys all have your favorites. I know there's some 310 to Yuma fans out there.
I like 310 to Yuma. The Christian Bale one, not the oldie moldy one.
The oldie moldy one is anything but moldy. It is a great classic Western. Glenn Ford is so diabolical and charming in that movie. He's the Russell Crowe bad guy character. Nice. He's really cool. I like the new one as well, but don't dismiss it. It's a Criterion, Lisa.
Shit.
Oh yeah, that's a big deal.
All right.
I had a quick, not the character, but Dennis Farina. He's been in Get Shorty. I believe he was in Get Shorty.
Yeah,
right?
different characters, but yeah,
different characters. But he seems to really be able to kind of use his dialogue in a really.
So
would you say his character feels like an Elmore Leonard character, particularly in Out of Sight?
Honestly, I think Out of Sight, despite how it plays with the structure, and also Out of Sight is just such a movie. You know, it's a cinematic endeavor. It really tries to do something beyond just being a simple adaptation of plot. There's a lot of visual flourishes going on. It's a Steven
yeah.
Soderbergh film. But yeah, I mean, I think everybody in that film is top notch. Elmore Leonard walk off the page for the most part. Like I said, George Clooney, Jennifer Lopez, maybe less so.
Yeah.
Louise Guzman and Catherine Keener are perfect Elmore Leonard characters as well.
Okay.
So, would you which is the most Elmore Leonard adaptation?
I mean, Out of Sight might be it. Get Shorty's also really close.
Yeah.
Some of the casting choices in Get Shorty, I'm not totally on board with. I like John Travolta. I think his Chili Palmer's pretty good. I'm not sure that's the actor I would cast in that role. But it's decent. It's decent. 310 to Yuma, I love both of them, but it's based on a short story.
Right.
Short story is very short. As far as like Western adaptations that are solid, Ombre, the Paul Newman film's a pretty good adaptation of that book. Paul Newman's not any percent Native American, but the times being what they were, he totally is in this film. The blue-eyed Native American Paul Newman.
Is there any? Do you know of any of Elmore Leonard's work that is been in talks to be adapted, like in the future?
The most famous one that never happened was Quentin Tarantino was going to adapt his Western 40 Lashes,
40
Last
Lashes.
One.
That's right.
And that's the story of two prison escapees, one a former slave and another a native, and they revert back to their historical. What's the phrasing that I'm trying to say? They revert not to their primitive selves, but their cultural selves. They shed the modern identities that have been slapped on them, and they go to war with anybody who comes up and butts up against them. And it's a real political firecracker of a book, and I would have been fascinated to see what Tarantino would have done with that. I think it would have ended up looking a lot like Django Unchained.
Yeah.
What was? Oh, I see it. 1972. Okay.
Because that was like within the last 2 years or so that was talked about most recently.
Well, the first time I heard about it was after Jackie Brown. For the longest time before Kill Bill, he was going to make 40 Lashes.
but I
Last
mean,
One.
there has been talk as recently as like the last year or so.
Oh yeah,
too.
it started to come back up into the conversation.
Do
I
you
don't
think
know. I don't know. It's an interesting story. I think you have to have a particular hand. I'm not sure Tarantino would have been the right hand for that. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. I could see it being adapted very poorly also. Yeah. Because it was written, I want to say in the early 60s. When the heck was 40 Lashes Less One written?
1972.
72, okay. So, like, Leonard's, what's the word? Not a PC guy, and there's some awkward shit in 40 Lashes Less One, so I can see a really terrible version of that book getting made. But it's an interesting one. I could also see a very woke adaptation of that happening too.
Who do you think? Would Boots Riley blow your mind?
Well, like if Boots Riley was like, I want to make a Western Elmore Leonard novel, it would blow my mind. I don't see Boots Riley gravitating towards that, but I would watch the shit out of that movie. Right. Yeah.
I'm curious to see. I want to read that.
What's interesting about Leonard is with minus Justified success.
Yeah.
After Be Cool, there are and 310 to Yuma, there are not a lot of successful adaptations of his work.
Right.
There's been some attempts, Freaky Deaky and Kill Shot, 2 great books, 2 terrible movies.
Kill Shot, is that the one with Mickey Rourke?
And Diane Lane. Yeah.
Oh.
And Thomas Jane also.
Thomas Jane.
It's a great cast. Rosario Dawson, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, terrible movie.
That's right. They are. Who did that? Who directed that movie?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
Huh. I did not know that was Elmore Leonard based on his work. All right. Well, look, if you haven't got your tickets, ladies and gentlemen, they are on sale. It's only a few days away. But come out, see a really cool movie.
You sure it hasn't already happened, Darren?
Yeah, I'm positive. I hope. But yeah, come out and see a cool movie with a cool crowd with some cool dorks. We will all be in attendance.
Charles Mathau.
Yeah, John Madden directed that.
What?
Directed what?
Freaky Deaky?
Kill Shot.
Yeah, Kill Shot. Freaky Deaky, also terrible.
I can't Wikipedia fast enough.
I do remember seeing the trailer for that movie, Kill Shot.
I was so excited because I loved that book.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's a Hitman novel.
Yeah.
stuff.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, get your tickets. Go to the Alamo's website and or download the app and come out, hang out with us for our still awesome screening of Out of Sight. In the meantime, you can follow the podcast at ITMODcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Brian is at the Turtle Dork on Twitter, at the Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram.
Can I interrupt? Yeah, hang on. Yeah. We should mention 5 o'clock. Joseph Kahn's Bodied is going to be screening,
That's
and
right.
Rapdork himself,
Rapdork,
Physics, is going to do a set before that starts. So come out and make it a double feature.
I originally wanted this still awesome double feature to be Bodied, one of our favorite contemporary films, and Joseph Kahn's other still awesome classic, Torque.
Oh,
Stop. Luckily, that did not happen. We were spared by the guys.
He can never go without mentioning Torque.
I love Torque, and I can't stand that
Have you
guys.
recently rewatched that
No.
movie? You need to.
I've got the DVD. I've watched it within the last 10 years.
Pop it in, man.
No. If you watch it, like you need to rewatch that like soon. Anyway, yeah.
I'll watch it as a pre-game body. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I'm not.
I'm gonna live tweet it.
Do what
Do that.
do what Billy says. Come make it a double feature. Come out. Body starts at 5, or actually maybe the performance starts at 5.
Yeah, I
the
think
film will start immediately after that.
But you're not going to want to miss this performance.
For sure.
Nope. So yeah, do that. And also in the meantime, you can follow that guy at WB Das. Does not stand for weapons of
Please,
mass.
do you want another to go?
WB, not
Guys,
WM.
I originally said weapons of base destruction because he's so good at that killer bass.
That should be my DJ handle. Weapons of base destruction.
Yeah. Follow that guy at Mouth
Jokes are fun.
Mouth
Brad is melting down.
I'm sorry, Brad. You can follow that guy at Mouthdork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Untappd. Lisa, I did not skip over you on purpose, but you can find that young lady consoling her husband at Sidewalk Siren and at Baked Dork on Twitter and Instagram, and also at Sidewalk Siren on Letterboxd. I'm Darren
cool,
Smith, the
guys.
Disco Dork on all social medias. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week, and until next time.